Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are, and welcome to the Nautel Broadcast Engineers and Technology Training and Recruitment video or webinar, which is being produced in cooperation with the Society of Broadcast Engineers. And we are delighted to have with us today two of the top people within SBE, Mr. John Poray, the Executive Director of the Society of Broadcast Engineers. Good afternoon, John.
Thank you, Chuck. Good to be here.
Glad you could make it. And Mr. Wayne Pecena, the chair of the Education Committee for the Society of Broadcast Engineers from Texas, which will become obvious. Hi, Wayne.
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here with you.
Nice to have you with us, Wayne. So these are the things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the challenge. You know, you can't go to an SBE meeting without people looking around and saying, look at all the gray hair. We're going to try to get some actual facts on that. We're going to try to triangulate on what the real situation is from SBE data. We're going to talk about SBE's substantial education efforts, SBE's certification efforts that have been in place for almost 45 years now, and brand new, we're going to talk about SBE's mentoring program. We're also going to provide you a lot of sources for technical knowledge, both online and in person. We're going to make this webinar available to you not only as a archived webinar, but also in PDF form. And all the links you'll see, you don't have to write them down because we're going to give them to you as a PDF that you can download from our website. And lastly, we're going to take your questions. You'll notice on the right-hand side of your page, the GoToWebinar application has the ability for you to ask questions. And we will, in fact, answer those questions at the end of the webinar, or at least as many as we can get to. But we do promise to get back with you by email if we can't answer them online. Remember that watching this webinar qualifies for a half of an SBE recertification credit, which is identified under Category 1 of the recertification schedule for SBE certifications. Is that true, Mr. Poray?
That is right.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Okay, so John, I'm going to turn it over to you and talk about employment trends in our industry.
Well, thank you, Chuck. And again, it's great to be here, and the SBE appreciates being a part of this Nautel webinar. So let's start. We're going to take a look at some figures first, actually not from SBE, but from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, to just see what they say as far as how many jobs exist within broadcast today. But let's first go back to 1999, and that agency said that there were over 25,000 people employed in technical positions at radio and television stations around the United States. But by 2008, that had dropped to 22,200. And of course, at that time, we were feeling the effects of the Great Recession and also the compilation of accommodation, I should say, of stations. We were seeing that as well. Interestingly enough, in 2017, the last year the figures were available, this employment figure has grown to over 23,000. And I think, even though they don't provide quite the detail to be able to define why, I think certainly the increase in IT and IT kinds of things as far as people working at stations is probably what's driving some of that increase. So moving on to the next slide, now we're going to look at some things that come from our SBE Jobs Online. We've had a job listing service for SBE for many, many years. And this information comes from that source. So what we're looking at today is how the jobs are broken down, what we see listed. Right now, there are over 65 jobs listed on the SBE Jobs Online in June 2018, and 28 of them are TV related, 22 are radio, and you can see the spread for the rest of them. This compares a little bit differently from 7 years ago, where 43 of them were TV jobs. So almost 3/4 of the jobs were TV at that point, and only 12 in radio. What we've seen in our membership is we have a much greater percentage of TV members today than radio, and I think it has a lot to do with consolidation, and where we've seen, clusters of stations being operated by 1 or 2 engineers, where before there might have been an engineer on average for every station some years ago. So why are we seeing almost an even number of radio jobs listed today? From what we can tell, a lot of those jobs go unfilled over a longer period of time. Sometimes they never get filled. It's also tougher to find people willing to move. We're going to see in a little bit how the average age of members has grown, and I think most people will agree that as you get farther along in your career, you're probably a little less likely to want to pull up stakes and move 500 miles down the road to a new community and kind of reestablish yourself all over again. So it makes it tough to fill some of these positions, particularly in smaller and medium-sized markets. So what are the backgrounds that these jobs that are listed? What do they consist of these days? If you look at on the chart on the right from June 2018, of the jobs we have listed now, 55% of them, the portion in the red, require an engineering and IT background. 45% just the traditional engineering, probably RF, that kind of thing. Compare that to 2011, and it's just the opposite. We see 61% were engineering and 39% engineering and IT. So over that 7-year period, we have seen, and many of you I'm sure would have projected this anyway, we have seen this march towards more of an IT background necessary to do the jobs at radio and television stations today.
And I think it's appropriate, John, because when you consider the types of equipment that are out there, there's very little broadcast equipment these days that doesn't have some sort of IT component to it, doesn't have an Ethernet connector on the back.
That's right, and it just keeps going that direction. So we think there'll always be an RF component out there, but it's going to be a smaller piece of the pie as years go on.
Absolutely.
So let's take a look at some membership trends of SBE, because it's really a kind of a subset of the entire technical broadcast community. There are roughly 5,000 members of SBE. Most of them are individuals. There are some companies that are members that provide products and services and support the SBE's activities. But the vast majority of them are individual members. And what we've got here is a chart that maps how the average age range for members has progressed and gotten older as time has gone on. So if you look at the blue line from 2001, you can see that the average age range was in the 46 to 55-year-old category, and that represented about 32 to 33% of all our members. Going to the red line in 2011, you see it jumps up to the 56 to 65-year-old age range, and even goes a little higher. Now it's probably about 34% of our members. Finally, the green line, 2018, where we are today, we've jumped over that 35% mark. It's about 37%, and that age range still is in that 56 to 65, but actually still gotten a little bit older as we've gone along. Most broadcast engineers would say, "I told you so," we're aware of that, and this bears it out.
This is scary, John, because if you look at it, the mean of the blue line versus the mean of the red line is almost the 10 years between 2001 and 2011. And then the mean of the red line to the green line is almost 7 years. So we are marching to the right. And the problem is that, and this is stating the obvious, but that can't continue forever.
That's right. We're in the next 5 years, we're going to see many more engineers retire, and there's just not enough coming up through the pipeline to replace them.
And there's going to be a vacuum of broadcast engineers in the United States in the future. That's obvious by this slide.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
So this makes it even more specific. Here's the average age of SBE members in 2001, 11, and 18. You can see it's jumped from 49 all the way to 59 in that 17-year period. So again, it just bears out that previous chart that gets it right down to a specific age.
Yep.
So do we get any younger members joining, and do we get any younger people in the business in general? And the answer is yes. They are there. not as many as we'd like, but just in 2018 so far through the month of May, the SBE has had about 265 new members join. And of that group, 17% of those are under age 31, so about 40-some members. So we are seeing some younger people come in. We'd like to see more young people come in. They're it's a different generation. They're looking for different things and different expectations out of an organization. And SBE is working towards that actually to be more responsive, I think, and provide the kinds of things that the younger generation is looking for in a professional association.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to our new program that we started January 2nd this year called Member Plus. What our board realized over time that we needed to add more value to our membership. We have lots of benefits and services available to the traditional members that we've had for many years, but we felt we needed to plus that up. So we created the Member Plus program, and basically means that for a little more money, the individual is going to get complete free access to all of our webinars that we have. We have over 60 broadcast technical webinars that we produce, most of them evergreen material that are available. And that Member Plus member gets access to all of those 24/7, 365. Plus, any new webinars that we produce during the membership year. And we produce 12 to 14 new webinars each year, presented live, and then those are put into the archive. So it's an ever-expanding library of broadcast technical information. And so far, 18% of our members have renewed, have chosen the Member Plus option, so more than 600. So we're real pleased about that. And if we look at the next slide, we'll see that our new members that have joined, which again are in the upper 200s, 35%, even a greater percentage than the renewal, 35% of our new members have joined SBE and opted for the Member Plus membership category. So that's over 90 members. In fact, by today, we're in mid-June. I'm sure it's probably jumped over 100. We like to think that they're seeing this greater value and realize that this is a good deal. This is a good opportunity to get continuing education at a bargain price.
And it's an opportunity for the member to take charge of their own education. Most of them, their employers are no longer providing that.
That's right. And at the cost that it is, when you can get all of this, can I say the price, Chuck?
It's great.
Yeah,
it's
great. A Member Plus at $175 a year, regular membership at $85. So if you take more than 2 webinars a year, it's paid for itself.
And here's where it pays off.
That's right. SBE has had a certification program going back to 1975. People can become certified in radio and television and different levels of experience and knowledge. And what this chart depicts is from our annual compensation survey, where we also ask if you're SBE certified, and we combine that then with the salary. So what we find here is that in radio, on the left side, you see that SBE certified individuals do make a fair amount more than those that do not hold certification in general. And then on the TV side, it's not quite the difference, but again, there is a positive difference there for those involved in TV or who have TV and radio responsibility.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that's interesting here is it's not necessarily cause and effect. In other words, those people who have advanced further through their career and have spent time continuing to stay up with the latest technologies, they're more likely to be SBE certified, and they're more likely to be paid more. So it may not all be cause and effect.
That's right. If you're a driven professional in your field, and you're more likely to take educational programs offered and more likely to become certified, chances are you're more likely to be paid more too and get some of those promotions.
Absolutely. So Wayne, talk to us about the SBE education programs and certification programs and what SBE does to help broadcast engineers further their careers.
Well, thank you, Chuck. SBE certainly offers many services and programs to their members, but I think two of the cornerstone programs are the certification program and the education program. If we look at some of the individual certifications, they are several levels, beginning with the entry level and rising up to the professional level that have experience requirements, as well as passing appropriate exams to achieve those certifications. I'm a little partial to the education side, and with that, our goal is to both support the certification programs, but at the same time offer the professional development needs that our members need, and also offer those programs in different formats. Thus, we have several, such as our webinars, which are by far the most popular. We have SBE University courses, and of course, we offer in-person tutorials. So again, there's no one program. It is a combination of programs that we hope to fulfill the needs of our members. If we look at the focus of professional development within the SBE, and going back maybe 5 years or so, a lot of our focus was on helping the traditional broadcast engineer to learn information technology, or IT. And to do that, our primary focus was on IP networking. It's certainly, IT is a diverse field, but one of the common areas is IP networking, and that's where we used as the foundation. If we go back maybe a year ago, that focus changed somewhat, in that with a lot of traditional IT professionals coming into the broadcast industry, we changed that focus somewhat to focus upon helping that traditional IT professional learn broadcast engineering, and likewise used RF technology as a foundation for that change.
So one of the things that I hear here, Wayne, is that as stations have had a harder time finding traditional broadcast engineers that know IT, they're hiring IT people and hoping for a way to help them learn the whole business of broadcast engineering.
Exactly, and if you think back to one of John's slides, that sort of follows in suit with the demand for that IT skill set in the broadcast engineer.
Absolutely.
Well, today we actually ended up really focusing on several areas. We haven't forgot that traditional broadcast engineer and that IT skill development, but also, of course, at the same time, focusing on the IT professional in learning broadcast engineering. And our RF 101 webinar series, which was an 8-part webinar series last year that began, was one of the first programs in that area. At the same time, we certainly have a very changing, an industry that is changing technology very, very rapidly. And that course can range from the cloud technology to cybersecurity, and certainly in the television world, ATSC 3.0 are some of the areas that we are focusing on as well. But at the same time, not losing sight of the fundamentals. That fundamentals might be in audio systems, in video systems, and certainly in RF areas.
Mm-hmm.
We, of course, have mentioned where is the next generation coming from. One of our challenges that we have before us as an industry is that traditional career path that many of those SBE members followed simply no longer exist. As a result, we're seeing, combined with this demand for skills from the IT area, a lot of individuals from the IT industry are coming into broadcast engineering, but there's some differences often that come into play. We're finding individuals from the military that have an excellent technical educational background, often coming with some very strong IT skills and coming with RF background skills. But often what is lacking is those RF skills maybe are not in the context of high power broadcast RF systems, and certainly whether RF or IT, they're lacking the knowledge of an FCC rules and regulations, even some commonly accepted skills as understanding the duties of the designated chief operator of a broadcast station. So there's opportunities for, again, several different levels of professional development.
You know, Wayne, when you talk about the IT skill set and what it lacks relative to the total industry of broadcast engineering, two things come to mind. One is broadcast IT is a little different than the standard IT in the sense that it's real time. You have to have things operating at high speeds to handle video and audio in real time. That's different than the standard IT industry where you're moving files around. And the second thing is safety. In IT, you may not ever experience anything higher than 5 volts. But what about sending that person to the transmitter site in the middle of the night where he's going to have the possibility of dealing with 8,000 volts? These are things that keep me awake at night worrying about things.
Those are very good points, Chuck, and that one of the skills in the education efforts, particularly in dealing with the high power with RF, is the safety side, because yes, that is very important. Those IT skills, you know, an IP packet is an IP packet. However, depending on how that packet is used, and particularly in the real-time environment that we find ourselves in, or even in a file environment, if you think about the file size, that often a high-definition video content file might be, we're just dealing with big numbers. They're simply different.
Yep, it's a tough thing.
So there's often an industry debate that has been going on for some time that asking the question, is it easier to train the broadcast engineer in IT, or is it easier to train that IT professional in broadcast engineering? And certainly I don't think we will resolve that debate on this webinar today, but I think a point to take into consideration is simply there's more to understand than just the technology. There is understanding the business. And I think a lot of times the broadcast engineer has an advantage because they've grown up and came through the broadcast and they understand the broadcasting business. Whereas maybe the IT guru, they have that really strong IT background, but they don't necessarily understand the broadcast business. And I think the best way to sum that one up is the phrase that I think we have all often heard, and we may even have the t-shirt to prove it. The show must go on.
We're part of the show business, and it is absolutely valid. You know, nothing is more indicative of that than, you know, probably the longest second is that second of being off the air. Doesn't seem like much time, but if you are the engineer of a radio station, being off a second, just a single second in morning drive feels like an eon.
Absolutely. Well, the SBE, in our attempt to provide, again, professional development for our membership, we offer that professional development in several different mediums with the idea everyone's needs are not the same and different mediums suit different individual needs. Certainly our webinars are one of our most popular forms of professional development, whether those are attended live, such as you are today, or probably more important and more popular is the on-demand access to those webinars so that those can be attended on your time. We have more in-depth programs in SBE University that are computer-aided instruction in a self-paced environment. And not to leave out in-person presentations, we have the NS workshops that occur Of course, the premier event is the Ennis workshop prior to NAB each year, but we also have regional workshops throughout the country, as well as tutorials and presentations associated often with state Broadcasting Association events. Also would like to call attention to the SBE Mentorship Program. This is a relatively new program that the SBE has began, where we partner someone new to the industry, the mentee, with a mentor or that experienced person within the industry. And this is a way to try to bring back some of maybe that old school approach that many of us as an experienced broadcast engineer were able to take advantage of, is having that mentor in our career path, or most likely mentors in our career path that helped us get to where we are. There are some specific webinar education programs in the terms of webinars that are focused upon the mentees. These generally fall under the realm of some of the basics and fundamentals, with the idea our audience is someone very, very new to the industry. And in fact, Chuck himself is one of our mentors in the program.
And I find it very rewarding. I think it's wonderful to be able to give something back to an industry that's been good to me over the years. So, yeah, I would encourage anybody who's been in the industry for a number of years to think about being a mentor. Just get together for lunch once in a while with your mentee and share them the experience and knowledge that you've got. You'll find it very rewarding.
And also not lose sight, there's things that you can learn as a mentor. There are
Absolutely.
things that you will benefit and learn from as well. As we kind of wrap up this section, I want to call your attention to some of the upcoming webinars. This summer, they're on the schedule, including one tomorrow that is on transmitter site safety. As we mentioned, that is one of, I think, an important focus area. We have other webinars that are under development to continuation of our advanced RF series webinars. This is the 200 series of designators for our webinars, as well as cybersecurity. And of course, for those in the TV industry, ATSC 3.0 is a high level of interest in terms of future technology. And just a reminder, as John mentioned, the SBE Member Plus level of membership gives you free access to all of the current webinars, plus all of the new webinars throughout that membership period.
And if you're not yet a Member Plus member, that doesn't mean you can't participate in these webinars. Just sign up and buy a particular webinar on an a la carte basis.
That's right. And keep in mind that it only really takes an interest to participate in two of those a la carte webinars to basically justify the Member Plus level. As I'd mentioned, we do have in-person tutorial workshops. The SBE Ennis workshops is a popular format. We have a couple of those coming up this summer and others later in the fall. But again, these are in-person webinars, often held in conjunction with state broadcast associations, or held individually within chapters and so forth.
And the other benefit of going to one of these is you get the opportunity to learn from your peers. You just sitting down and talking to people around you that are also broadcast engineers. It's so valuable.
Yes, it is. In addition, certainly it is not a day of death by PowerPoint. The individual networking during the breaks, during the lunch or meal events, that is also one of the valuable part, is that fellowship and camaraderie.
Absolutely.
Also, I'd like to call your attention to the SBE Leadership Development course. This is somewhat of a very unique course in that it is not based on technology education or professional development. It's based upon developing what I might describe as the people skills, particularly for the broadcast engineer that is moving up the ranks and have moved from what I think of as truly the technical professional, but they've moved into the management responsibilities. And this is a very unique course. It is several days in length. Professor Rodney Vanderveer from Purdue University leads this course. And I think if, as you run into people who are graduates of this course, they will tell you it was unique and it was very much worth their time.
Absolutely. I will say that I was a graduate of the precursor of this course back when it was offered by NAB some nearly 40 years ago, and found it very, very valuable in my career development.
And I will echo that sentiment. I am a graduate from about the year 2000, and I found that particularly helpful for me in my career, particularly as I moved away from the workbench and I spent more time at the desk as I moved up the ladder, particularly in those management and leadership roles.
It's something we all need to keep in mind as we progress in our careers. Absolutely.
Also, there are other avenues outside SBE directly, but sort of related. One unique program I'd like to call your attention to, if you're not aware, is the Alabama Broadcasting Association Engineering Academy. This is a very unique hands-on, in-person presentation held in Hoover, Alabama at the ABA offices. They have a classroom training environment for this, and you'll see the 2018 schedule is about to come to an end this fall, but of course 2019 is not that far away, and they'll ramp up with usually I think there's somewhere around 6 to 7 actual very specific topics that are addressed through the ABA Academy, and it is not limited to just Alabama broadcast engineers.
That's great. What a great resource.
And of course, there's always a place for self-study in our lives. We are all challenged with time and availability, and certainly there is a place for safe self-study, and also having some reference material at your ready disposal. Certainly the SBE engineering handbooks seeks to fulfill that need. Certainly the engineering handbook from the NAB, as well as a wide range of SBE publications that are very specific to the broadcast engineer, such as the Chief Operator Handbook. Whether you're new to the industry and want to understand the responsibilities and duties of that chief operator, or maybe it's simply time for a review and a refresher for those maybe that have been in the industry for a while. It never hurts to have that checklist and that guide to be sure that you are in compliance in the facilities that you're responsible for.
And I would recommend anyone who's listening to this to check out the SBE bookstore. If you are an SBE member, you get a discount. If you are a member of a partner society overseas, you get a discount on the SBE bookstore. And these are very, very valuable. You'll find a hard time finding books on broadcast engineering in the general press or the general bookstores. So very valuable benefit to SBE members. All right, so let's go on and talk about where you can find more information about in-person training. Don't worry about writing down all these links. I'm going to provide a PDF copy of this PowerPoint online on our website within the next day or so, and that'll have clickable links. So you don't have to write all these down. You can get clickable links. But the SBE Leadership Development course, the NAB's Broadcast Engineering and IT Conference, other regional conferences, including all those that are listed under the educational conferences under the SBE website, Nautel's post-NAB, I think we had over 350 attendees just before the day before NAB for a full day of free training. I'm sorry, I should say that was the NUG, the Nautel Users Group, just before NAB. Post-NAB is a special educational opportunity that we offer at our headquarters in Nova Scotia following the NAB. It's free. The training is free. You're on your own for your travel and your meals and your hotels and whatnot, but it's a wonderful value of 3 days of solid training. And then we also offer paid training as well at Nautel. There's more information at that link there as well. Online training is available from SBE and Nautel. There's SBE University, there's SBE webinars, and we've got over 100 Nautel webinars, I'm very proud to say, that have a lot of good educational information, and that's where this information will be up in the future too, where you can watch this on a later basis. Then there's tons of other online sources of educational information. This Week in Radio Tech is a great podcast that Kirk Harnack puts together. I'm a guest on his presentation, I believe, tomorrow, and he does that every week, and it's very, very full of information. Our friends at Gates Air do some webinars. There's a lot of good information on their website. Wheatstone and many manufacturers of broadcast equipment do videos and provide educational information in the form of videos that are free and available online. Radio World has a resource center full of lots of information, as does its partner, TV Technology. And on Facebook, there's pages such as I take pictures of transmitter sites and the Broadcasting Club. Both have tremendous 24-hour-a-day conversations going on all the time, and they're very educational, if not entertaining. And the Broadcaster's Desktop Resource is another resource for great information that you can get online. Again, you don't have to write these down right now. We'll make available this, and you can click all the links when we make this this information available on our website. So this is the time where, if you've been paying attention and you had questions on things, and I see plenty of people have. So we have questions, let's see here, from South Africa. I would like to understand if these figures you're showing is based only on American figures. Have you got any global figures? Thank you for your question from South Africa, and I'm afraid we don't. This is all based on the U.S. My travels have indicated that the similar situations exist in other countries. That there's a graying of our industry that is existing, perhaps not quite as badly as it is happening in the U.S., but it's happening in many, many parts of the world nevertheless. Chris has asked, what is your take on engineering being devalued by management, but are expected to do more and more with less resources and less pay? If it weren't for the engineering, no one would have a job to go to. I agree, Chris. And a friend of mine used to say, I've been doing so much with so little for so long that I can now do anything with nothing in no time. It's actually pretty sad. Can a member be certified on experience only, or do you require qualifications first? There's both qualifications, experience, and a written proctored exam. That question is also from South Africa. And it says another question here. Also, I don't know if it's, let's see, I think it's easier for the broadcast engineer to learn IT than the IT guy to learn broadcast engineering. For that reason, I don't know if RF, since it's electrical and they don't really know or are taught electrical information. Thanks, Dave. You're opening up a good argument there, and I would agree with what you said. Marty asks, are there any plans to develop an SBE series of courses that would result in SBE certification? That one's for you, I believe, Wayne.
Yes, I would like to say that we have courses, particularly webinars, as well as in-person presentations that support certification, but I cannot say we have a education series that really is a preparation class for certification, and that's a fine line that we have to walk, because if we were to offer a preparation course, that would imply that the education committee has insight into the certification test questions, and we do not. Our insight is really the published scope that certifications cover and references. And whereas as a result, we do not have a preparation class. Often, though, we have, again, coursework that supports certification, but I can't say that we will or will necessarily in the future have, per se, a preparation class. I'd mentioned we're working on some ATSC3 education materials. Of course, the SBE certification group is working on a specialty certification, and those sort of go hand in hand, and we hope to support that, but unfortunately not at the level you can say a preparation class, or certainly not a class that will guarantee you successfully passing that exam.
Probably all the things that we talked about help in terms of SBE certification. Buying the books at the bookstore and reading them, going to the classes, watching webinars, it all helps, but none of it's guaranteed to get you through the certification course.
Yes,
certification test.
That's true. I have done some of my tutorials, and I've used the term of CBNE study topics, for instance.
John, you were going to comment?
Yeah, just, we found that the field of broadcast engineering is so broad that to be able to create education programs that would be able to cover everything is basically impossible. So the certifications, they measure knowledge and experience. And again, as Chuck, you've indicated, it comes from the information you've learned through your entire career, through individuals, through books, through webinars, and more formal education. So to create even an 8-part course, for instance, is going to be just about impossible to be able to cover everything to prep for a certification.
Yep. I'll read another question here. We've got time for just a couple more, and we've got more questions than we've got time. Are there any options or alternatives to the SBE Leadership Development course? I'm moving towards a management role and would like to brush up on some skills, but I'm unable to travel to Atlanta. I guess I'll take that one on to begin with. I think, an introduction to management course at your local college or university, or even or local community college would probably be valuable. I think the benefit and the big advantage of the SBE Leadership Development course is you're working with others in our industry, and we can tailor the course a bit more towards the unique challenges that broadcast engineers face in a management role. Next question. Go ahead, John.
Well, I was going to add to that. 3 of the webinars that we have in our archive are actually on that topic, and they were done by Rodney Vanderveer at the university for us, and they're on communication and management and people skills. And so, each 1 hour long. So if you can't go to the entire course, you can get a little bit of a taste of it from those.
Very valuable. Next question. Can a Canadian join the SBE, and what is the cost and requirements? Yes, people overseas do join SBE. We tend to suggest that you join your own local broadcast engineering society. In Canada, for instance, we have a relationship with CCBE and WABE, but certainly don't turn away any members. And the information about the cost and the requirements is available on the I Want to Join section in the SBE website. Where would a young engineer go to learn about equipment that's older than they are, 30 plus years? Well, that's an interesting question. There's the mentorship program. Go to your local SBE meetings. Talk to the older guys in the room. Learn from those people. They will tell you everything you want to go. A lot of the resources that I provided about, I take pictures of transmitter sites and the broadcasting club, full of people that have tremendous information about older equipment. In fact, they enjoy it, and it's one of the things they like to do. I think we go ahead.
Thanks, Chuck. The SBE has what's called the SBE Roundtable. There's about 500 of our members are on that. It's basically a discussion group, and people tend to ask questions like, does anybody have a manual to a 1972 transmitter or whatever it might be,
right.
Because they're trying to fix it or find one or whatever. So, it's just a great way to communicate things just like that.
Yep. And remember, if you've got 5 engineers in the room, there's at least 6 opinions.
Right.
Okay, I think we've been calling it a day on the questions for right now. We've got at least half of them still available, and we will answer those offline. However, we did offer everybody that it was going to take about a 45-minute webinar. I do want to thank John, you and Wayne from SBE for being a part, a very integral part, very important part of this webinar. We think it's important to the industry. One of the things that I think is true is we're all in this together. You know, the SBE is a society of the broadcast engineers. The broadcast engineering industry encompasses all the stations as well. And Nautel's a part of that too. And that's why we wanted to do this webinar, is because this is our business too. And we want to thank you guys for being a part of this very much. John, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate being here.
And thank you, Wayne.
And thank you, Chuck. And also welcome on behalf of the Education Committee, your comments, your thoughts about current programs, future programs you feel we should have that you need. So we welcome that feedback.
Excellent. For John Poray and Wayne Pecena, I'm Chuck Kelly, your host, thanking you for being a part of our webinar today. Bye-bye for now, everybody.